Have you ever eaten a full meal and somehow still felt hungry soon after the meal? I know certainly my husband is like that. Or wondered why you're eating enough but still felt tired, foggy, or just a little off. Today, we're talking about something most of us never knew about food and nutrition. Most of us grew up believing that if you were full, you were fed. But what if being full doesn't always mean being nourished? Welcome to Too Many Cooks in the Kitchen. I'm Janelle, the original cook in this duo.
And I'm Lauren, the one who adds a little extra sass and spice.
Which basically means we don't always agree,
but we always have something delicious to share.
Today's episode is all about nutrient density, not calories, not dieting, just how much real nourishment we actually are getting from the food on our plates, and why it matters more than we think.
We will touch on ideas like how the quality of our food matters, how choosing more whole, real foods can help us feel better without dieting, tracking, or food stress, and that the term eating a rainbow does not refer to a bag of Skittles. I am excited to dig into today's topic of nutrient density. Are you ready, Mom?
Oh, yeah. I am ready for my grilling. Question.
All right, well, let's crack into it then. I'll just start with the first question, which is, when did you first realize that being full didn't always mean being nourished, either personally or professionally?
I would have to say it was probably when I started really reading about the nutrient density of food, and when I was beginning to study nutrition in college, when I was originally going to get a degree in exercise physiology.
Back in your bodybuilding days?
Yes, back in my bodybuilding days, but then I realized I didn't want to deal with a bunch of whiny people, because when I was a personal trainer, people whined even when they wanted to get in shape and they weren't injured. And exercise physiologists often deal with people who are not in like the best shape or whatever, and they need to do these things. It's kind of like a physical therapist. And I realized I didn't want to listen to people whine about doing the thing that they really needed to do for their best body. So yeah. But
Well,
in
you don't
you
really
know,
like listening to people whine in general.
yeah,
So
exactly. I want
I
to.
don't know anybody that really does enjoy hearing whining, but especially if you're being hired to do a job, I don't think you would want to, motivate people to just do the thing that they hired you to do. I don't know, but I
Yeah,
guess, that's the job. But anyways.
I'd like to say my wine tolerance is probably better when it comes from a bottle than it comes from a person.
Yeah.
But even then, it shouldn't be that high. But I would say that it was really when I was starting to study that, and then actually more when I started looking into soil health. And then there's this whole premise of the One Health initiative, which is basically tying in soil health along with the whole human health aspect, and kind of really the move to switch medical treatment to a holistic approach that actually incorporates what we put in our body and how we feed ourselves as medicine. And once I really kind of got into that, that was when I started to realize, light bulb went off, but it was kind of really a dumb moment of, wow, yeah, it is true. When you eat
You
a
are
bunch of
what
empty
you
calories.
eat.
Huh?
You are what you eat.
Yes, exactly. And if you eat crap, well, you're going to feel crappy. So that's that.
All right. And why do you think nutrient density isn't something that most of us were ever taught? And even though we hear nonstop messages about calories and healthy eating, and what's this whole deal about counting calories? Do you really think that that's even beneficial? I mean, I personally don't think it is, but that is around like dieting, that's like one of the big things is counting your calories.
Which is baloney. We shouldn't count calories. I mean, it is true, calories in, calories out. However, that being said, like if you are just counting calories and be like, well, I ate a Snickers bar, and that's, I don't even know, because God, the last time I looked at a Snickers bar. But like you look at a candy bar and you go, well, that's 400 calories. Okay, I have had lunch. But the problem is our bodies need the actual nutrients. They don't need the calories They need the nutrients more than they need the calories. I mean, you
Mhm.
do need the energy, and if you're an athlete and you're burning a whole bunch of calories because you're a marathon runner, then maybe those calories are equally as important as the nutrients within the food you're eating. But because you're burning so many calories, it is likely you're going to get the nutrients you need because you're going to consume. Obviously, if that runner is a marathon runner, they're probably not eating a bunch of Snickers bars anyway. They're going to be actually eating the most nutrient dense foods so that they have the nutrients to fuel their body, not just the calories. But we, as normal we might exercise 4 to 5 times a week. Maybe we get 45 minutes of exercise. Most of us don't get the recommended 90 days or 90 days. Wow. 90 minutes of exercise a day, believe it or not, is the recommended how much we should be moving. And that's just not like 90 minutes on a treadmill. That's just 90 minutes getting up and doing more than just breathing in and out. And for us, it's really important that the food we put in and the calories that we consume have the nutrients within them as well. Because if we don't have all of the things that we need, the building blocks for our body, then you are going to begin to see some degradation of your health because you just don't have all the building blocks for your body to repair itself and perform the things that you need. So it's really important to look at eating the vegetables and fruits and protein sources that have nutrient density and not just, well, I ate my macros. I had my protein, my fat, and my carbs for the day, but it was all just like totally empty calories.
So what you're saying essentially is all calories are not created equal, and though you may be trying to eat in a calorie deficit, and that is an important thing, say if you're trying to lose weight, if you're only fueling your body with, a calorie deficit of Snickers bars, then you're probably not going to reach your health goals.
And your body, because it isn't getting all the building blocks it needs, is going to begin to start craving food
Mm.
because it needs those
Sugar
building blocks.
specifically. I
Well, yeah, because it's
putting a
like
lot of sugar in
most of the time your body's like, well, that food is equated to something that will probably energize me. It doesn't know to crave
immediately.
a carrot.
Yeah. Yeah. Generally, no. It's usually sugary foods or fatty foods because that's what your body is asking for, and it's the most like energy available kind of food. Like, it's easy for your body to break that down and turn it into energy quickly, but it doesn't need all, I mean, in small amounts, it does need it, but not when it's, the entire source of what you're consuming.
Yes, and in general, if you're eating a fruit or a vegetable or grain, it
Well, it
has
has
within
fiber
it
also.
has fiber, which is
So that
slow to digest and slow
Mhm.
to release anything. And generally, your body doesn't break it down. The microbe, the gut microbes do, but all of those things will contain a quick source of carbohydrates as well
Mhm.
because they are made up of glucose and cellulose, which cellulose is basically a bunch of glucose molecules, quite easy to break down in the food source. So you're going to get that. And then along with that fiber is all the nutrients that are kind of locked up within that. Your body's going to be slow to digest that. So you kind of want a combination of both.
Well, there's a lot of noise, recently on social media and on the internet about what clean eating actually looks like. When we talk about whole foods and clean eating, what does that actually look like in real life? Just, beyond what looks pretty on the screen or on social media.
Well, I think it's one of those things that you could define it many different ways. How I would define clean eating is not something that I wash with soap and water, but it is food that is not overly processed at all. So essentially, it's clean of all of the crap that is added into it, the salts and the fats and all sorts of other additives to make them kind of addictive. And kind of back to the point we talked about earlier when we were talking about kind of calories and sugars and simple carbohydrates. Our gut microbiome has been shown by a professor at Duke to actually control our behavior. So when we eat a diet that is very dense in a lot of simple sugars, what happens is their gut microbes, there's different microbes, the ones that like the real simple carbohydrates, and that's what their preferred food source is. And then there's ones that like the more complex carbohydrates, like the fibrous things. And when we eat sugars, what happens is we end up with an excessive amount of a population of microbes that like sugar. And then when we try to say go on a diet or change to be clean eating, and we start eating less sugar, all of a sudden you're like craving. It's like all you can think about is that damn cookie. That's actually the microbes releasing hormones and manipulating our bodies to actually do our bidding and go put that damn cookie in so it gets what it wants.
Mm-hmm.
And so really important when you're changing to a clean eating diet is really kind of staying away from and getting rid of the sugars in your house for a little while to reset that gut microbiome to be less likely to control your habits and what you're going to do, because you are literally a puppet on a string at that point. The gut microbiome is controlling what you're thinking about. And so finding ways to kind of distract yourself, and perhaps it's eating some fruit that's kind of sweet tasting, but it also has fiber. So it's not as bad as eating straight up a bag of Skittles, as we talked about in the intro.
And at least from my personal experience, once you start cutting sugars out of your diet and your gut microbiome becomes used to it, and you have an absence, or not an absence, but much less of these microbes that are like begging for sugar, you really will not crave sugar to the degree that you were before once you know, like after a period of time. And it might take a little while, especially, you know, if your diet is really high in sugar, processed sugars, previously, eventually you won't crave the sugar to the same degree that you were before, and it won't have so much power over you.
Absolutely.
But
Yep.
also, if you're interested in the gut microbiome, our next episode is all about feeding these good gut bacteria and helping them to, you know, promote your good health. And so if you're interested, check back in for our next episode. But anyways, how do you see low nutrient density showing up in everyday things like cravings, energy crashes, mood, or feeling like you're always thinking about food?
Well, this is a great question because it follows up to like that it's the gut microbiome that's controlling it. And there are lots of studies out there. Even let's say, okay, here's another way to think about it too. And this has been shown through a few research studies, is that, okay, I'm not going to eat sugar. I'm just going to replace it with some fake sugar. Don't do that. Just if you're going to have it, eat real sugar, because what they've shown is, and this is kind of an evolutionary thing, you crave sugar because you need the energy. It's a survival mechanism. The microbes are there going, okay, I need those calories. When you eat a sugar substitute, and obviously if you're a diabetic, it's really important that you reduce your sugar intake, but don't do it by like drinking a diet soda. Just drink water. And then perhaps have something that is like a little sweet and a little more balanced. You know, you
An
could eat
apple.
something like a sweet potato, or you could eat something that has like fiber in it, like some
Berry.
pineapple.
Yeah.
Exactly. Berries, which are super good
Mm-hmm.
for you, as well as at the same time, it's going to satisfy that sugar craving. Because what happens when we consume we'll call it fake sugar and all of what falls under that, is that your body doesn't actually get the actual calories behind it, and it kind of can sense that. And so what it does is it triggers the
More craving.
cravings even more, and it puts it into hyperdrive. So you're doing yourself a disservice when you decide, well, I'm just going to switch from regular soda to a diet soda. In actuality, just skip the soda altogether. And there's a lot of things to be said for how drinking soda will leach the calcium from your bones. So really important that you kind of limit the consumption of any kind of carbonated beverage. unless it's like a mineral water. And then, if you want your water bubbly, which I love my water bubbly, but you can do that, but still it's in moderation. Clean
Mhm.
water and basic simple beverages. And we'll check back to the metabolic health episode we recorded a few times ago. And I will link that show in the notes because I cannot remember the episode number. I think it was episode 3 that actually really talks about that on, drinking enough liquid, but what type of liquid. So yeah, I mean, you're going to have all of this stuff when you are feeding yourself a lot of simple carbohydrates. You are going to have the cravings and the energy crashes because you're putting your body basically on a sugar roller coaster.
And just as an aside, a lot, you may think that switching to a sugar-free option is better because it's sugar-free. Like these things still contain sugars. It's just a more highly processed form of it. And a lot of these things have been known to be carcinogens. So you may think that you're, switching to a healthier option, but really down the road, it can have even more detrimental effects to your health.
And
So,
some of them, like sorbitol, can lead to total bloating. I mean, you want
mhm.
to have some serious gut issues,
Yeah.
bloating bad. But I mean, stevia is one that it does come from a plant. It's like 300 times more sweet. It's natural, but I think it tastes
Also,
like
it can
soap.
still have downstream effects on your gut, and it's been known to, I think, cause like diarrhea and stuff if you have too much of it. So I think that if your body's craving sugar, like you said already, Mom, opt for water, and then if you really need something to just satiate that craving, opt for something that is more nutrient dense, that also has the fiber that's going to, help your body release that sugar more slowly, and you're still, you'll ease that craving, but you're not just like giving into the craving as much, like eating a Snickers bar or something like that. And that is to say that like these cravings sent, from your gut to your brain, like it's not in your head. The gut so the vagus nerve, which connects the gut and the brain, is the longest nerve in your body, and we'll get into this more in the next episode, but there are 80%. The vagus nerve sends signals 80% of the time up from your gut to your brain, whereas only 20% from your brain to your gut. So you're getting signals all the time from your gut to your brain. And that's why, you feel that these cravings are so powerful and that you don't really have control over them, is because your gut really is so much more powerful and it is driving you more than you think it would, because we think that we're always in control, like the brain is in control of everything, but really your gut is more in control of things than you actually think. And just as another aside, your gut is the first thing that forms, like your first brain that forms when you're in vitro, in the womb. It
Right,
forms
because the
first
brain is the
before.
last.
Exactly. It forms first before your brain actually does. So, I mean, we know very little about the brain and how it works. And I would say the gut, we have a bit more of an understanding of, but it's just, like these two things are very interconnected. And what you're feeding yourself is super important and is always sending signals up to your brain. So,
Yeah, super important. And also, like, you have the kind of like wine has a terroir. Well, our gut microbiome also is different based on all of the conditions around us,
Mhm.
who we were born into, because we kind of sort of inherit that through the
Yes.
food that we eat within that location, but also the diet that we have been eating as children. So they always want to say that obesity is genetic. I think it actually is, the link is more the gut microbiome, because
Mhm.
that is linked to kind of somewhat genetics and also a lot like, well, the mom, is feeding the baby and then maybe she licks her finger and then she's like wiping the baby off. And then there's the gut microbiome comes in and the baby's always
Mhm.
putting the fingers in mom's mouth and then putting it in her mouth. The gut microbiome is kind of that way through the
Mhm.
nurturing of and raising of the
Yes.
child. And that just gets passed on. And then in general, if you look at the eating habits, I think all of that kind of goes together with that. But we're kind of, I suppose, a little getting off topic
Yeah.
for the nutrient
We're getting
density.
into the next episode already. We're just really
But
excited about gut health.
super important to understand that the foods we eat and what we crave, which does really link back to nutrient density and how you're getting enough of those foods, is that it is going to take some effort to ensure that the foods you're thinking about and what you're putting on your plate and eating when you're trying to make a shift towards eating a more nutrient dense diet. I think it's important to let everyone know that you're going to have a little bit of a battle with your microbiome for a little while to begin to start to kind of make conscious choices. And those are your mind conscious choices and not the ones from what your gut microbiome is telling you to eat.
That being said, for our listeners who want to focus more on nutrient density without changing their entire life and diet, how can they start to do that? Where should they start, and what can they do today to start eating a more nutrient dense diet?
Biggest thing is focusing on whole foods. And the best things to really switch that is focusing on the fruits and vegetables and legumes. Those are probably the three most important things. But if nothing else, and maybe you're a person who's just, oh, I don't like beans and I, don't want grains too much. Okay, I just want to go like paleo or whatever. You could skip all of that, but still fruits and vegetables. So 5 servings of vegetables a day, whether they're cooked or raw. If they're raw, generally the rule of thumb is a cup. That's basically the size of your fist. If they're cooked, they're about a half a cup, so size of half your fist. And if they're fruits, it's generally a half a cup. And so you can aim to have 2 servings of fruits and 5 servings of vegetables every single day. If you do nothing else but you do that, you will begin to have more nutrient density within your diet. And then lean proteins and add those. And of course, there are some proteins that have more nutrient density than others. But in general, if you're eating a lean, whether that is a vegetarian or vegan diet or a omnivore diet, in general, getting a clean source of protein, whether that is like a tofu for a vegetarian or that is some chicken breasts or other chicken or fish, in general, those have a high degree of nutrient density to the calorie. And that's really what we're kind of another way to look at it is how many nutrients in the food based on the amount of calories. And if you can divide the one into the other, you will end up having a higher number of nutrients based on calories. And the book recommendation I'm going to talk about is called NutriVore, and that one is going to be really delving in. So we'll get into that during the book review. So continue to listen until we get to that part. But that book was great in breaking it down simply. Comes with great PDFs on being able to kind of guide for no matter what type of diet, whether you're vegan, vegetarian, paleo, I don't know, all the different types of ways that people want to eat. It didn't matter. She actually, the author had it all the different ways. It didn't matter what your preferred diet choice was or genre, you could still get enough nutrient density. You didn't have to like switch to another diet. It was mostly the big takeaway was eat your vegetables, eat a rainbow.
So eating a rainbow, then you wouldn't want to have, you said 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You wouldn't want to just solely eat green obviously greens are very good for you, but like eating a rainbow, so you want to get a variety of colors in your diet. And why is that?
Because each of the colors actually believe it or not, the reason why they are those colors is because they have enzymes, kind of
Phytochemicals, right?
phytochemicals, exactly. So like beta carotene, which can be
Carrot.
converted in the body to vitamin A, and so that, and lutein, which is super good for macular degeneration and the eyes in general and eye health, which is why they say, like carrots are so good for your eyes. Well, there are many other vitamins that are also good for your eyes, but in general, the orange vegetables have lots of different types of beta carotenes. It's a whole class of phytochemicals that fall under that. And then your green vegetables have boats of other types of vitamins, but all green vegetables aren't all the same. Like broccoli and cabbage, even though they're in the same family, have a different nutrient package. But what's important is that you don't say, well, I only like spinach and I'm going to eat 5 servings of spinach a day. Because, well, you're going to have a lot of iron, which is great, but you can get too much iron. So that's also important to watch out for that. But you want to eat, okay, maybe you don't like orange things. All right, well, try to eat things in the red color and then the green color. Don't just eat all green or all of a red vegetable or fruit. Like, oh, I don't like green grapes, but I'm going to eat strawberries. I like strawberries. I'm just going to eat strawberries. No, you want to eat strawberries. You want to eat blueberries. You want to eat banana. You want all the different colors, because all of those colors, like blue, are the anthocyanins, and those are really good. They're those antioxidants. So I, for a while there, or even now, still like blueberries. Everyone was crazy about the
Superfood.
dark blue, the superfoods. They are superfoods, but it's not just blueberries. Anything of that color has the similar kind of package. It was just a great marketing ploy to sell more blueberries. I love blueberries. Don't get me wrong. Very good for you. But if you don't like blueberries, it's okay. You can eat a raspberry or a blackberry or any other kind of dark red or purple fruit, and you're going to get that same thing. And if you don't like fruit, because I know there are people who don't like that, or your red cabbage also has anthocyanins in it as well. So any of the red vegetables or kind of purpley vegetables, thocyanin, zeaxanthin, a whole bunch of other ones actually reflect that purple color. And so that's why it looks that color. And so we're not going to get deep into the nutrition of like what's in everything, because I think that's like people often get stuck on like trying to get everything and every vitamin in the exact amount every day. It's going to be overwhelming if you focus on that. It's just better to eat a variety. As I say, variety is the spice of life. So if you focus more on eating the variety of fruits and vegetables, then over the course of a day or two, you are going to actually balance that out and get enough. Even if you don't get enough of one nutrient in a day, but the next day you get like more of that than nutrient you got the day before, it's all going to balance out. It's really in kind of looking at across a week, you want to eat enough variety.
Dr. Tim Spector says that you want to get 30 plants in your diet every week. So, that's including like fruits and vegetables and grains, whole grains, and also things like nuts and seeds and all that. You just want to get like 30 different plants over the course of the week, and then your diet, your gut will be very happy because it's being fed all these different things, and all the different kinds of bacteria in your gut, they're all being fed, the things that they like.
They're in there having a party.
All right. Well, I think I have one more question to ask. So, how can one shift the focus from what should I avoid eating to what can I add to my diet to change the relationship with our food, instead of, I guess saying like thinking what should I avoid eating is kind of a negative way to look at it, and shifting from, what can I avoid to what can I add is definitely a much more positive connotation and makes it seem a lot less daunting, I think.
Yeah, actually, it's super important to understand that. Not to get kind of, I don't know, in the weeds, right? Like, oh, I can't have that. I can't have that. You know what? I think we've said this before. I don't remember which episode when we talked about like, you can have the cheesecake, just not every day. It is important to understand everything in moderation. So we want to ensure that we're not thinking about what we can't have. It's more important than what we can have. It is a positive mentality switch that's really important to think about. So when you're thinking about what can you have, in general, you want to limit the processed foods and overly processed foods. So yeah, okay, there's this thing that's made with some vegetable that they waved over the top of it, but it is predominantly not vegetable. Or like these things now, it's like for people to eat more fruits and vegetables. I see them is these vegetable chips.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, people. And if
Or,
they're
like, the
like made into like,
straws. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, those
like
things are
that's
horrible.
processed, people. That's freaking processed. Might have some like sweet potato dust on it, but eat sweet potatoes. Don't eat that. If you want crunchy snack, go for popcorn. At least it's made with like
It's still a plant.
a plant in its whole. And then if you're going to like, if it's a chip and you really want a chip, have a potato chip. Or you could have sweet potato chips, or if they're like whole, like what is it, Terra, I think is the brand that
Mm,
has like the
a potato
all the different,
variety. Yeah.
yeah, it's like beets and
But that being said, it's always better for those kinds of things to opt for an option that isn't like is either baked but isn't, fried in some kind of seed or canola oil. It's always better to opt for something that is fried in a healthy oil like an avocado oil or a tallow. I actually just got some. I don't eat chips very often, but because we're filming this right before the Super Bowl, so I'm not gonna watch the Super Bowl, but I'm definitely gonna eat some snacks. So I got some really good chips that are, they're all the ingredients are organic, but they're all fried in 100% grass-fed beef tallow. So, it's not a
nice.
great snack, and I don't eat it all the time, but at least, it's as far as snacks go, it's on the better end of the spectrum. So,
Well, and that's what we're talking about. It's like you can have a snack once in a while. It's just
mhm,
don't eat it every day. If
exactly.
like 10 to 20% of the calories or food that you are consuming is the stuff that isn't the best for you, but 80% of the foods on your plate or that you are putting in your mouth, because not everybody puts a whole apple on a plate to eat it, is that is fine. Do the 80-20 balance. Focus on trying to get the 80% of the foods being whole foods that need minimal processing, because maybe, you are going to chop up those vegetables to cook them, which is totally fine. And another thing that is really important for people to understand is, yes, fresh fruits and vegetables are absolutely great for you. However, frozen vegetables are equally as nutrient dense, if not more. And the reason for that is if you're getting your fruits and vegetables from the grocery store, some of those vegetables can be sitting out and be weeks old. And those vegetables, that nutrients in them are breaking down because the cells are still alive in that fruit and vegetable is sitting out there in the grocery store, and the light and everything is causing those nutrients to reduce. But when they freeze it, they're actually flash freezing it right from the field. And so they're actually capturing those nutrients at the peak of kind of freshness. And so, yes, those would need to be cooked because they're going to be mushy otherwise. And I would definitely not want to eat a frozen Brussels sprout because it's just going to be mushy. But in general, like peas, green beans, broccoli, cauliflower, things of that nature, those are actually going to be as equally nutrient dense, if not more. And then they have done studies on canned vegetables and fruits. The fruits, you have to watch out for, there often is added sugar. So that's one to watch out for. But in general, if it means you're not going to eat vegetables, or what you can afford is canned vegetables, get the canned vegetables, because it's still better than not having them at all. And it's this like all or nothing mentality has to go bye-bye. You have to get rid of it. It's still make the effort of what you can afford as well as what's available, because there are places that have terrible food deserts that maybe all they have is canned vegetables. Don't forego eating canned vegetables because somebody told you that you should only eat fresh vegetables. Skip that. Just eat canned green beans, throw some salad dressing on it, watch the salad dressing can have added sugar. But
Fancy
like,
oils.
yeah, it's like if you're looking like good seasonings, salad dressing packets, although they've certainly changed some of the additives in there to not be so great. But honestly, if you got some like Italian seasoning on the spice aisle, you get some of that. You get a little bit of salt in there, some balsamic vinegar, a little bit of mustard, shake that together with a little bit of olive oil, and boom, you've got a very simple Italian salad dressing that you can toss the green beans in. Throw in some other types of beans like a kidney bean, you've got a bean salad. Super easy. You're going to get a high degree of nutrient density. And if you're looking to add a little bit more protein in there, and you want to make it a full protein, cook some rice or some farro or some pasta. Some orzo would be great in there, and mix that all together, and ta-da, you have a very simple and, dare I say, inexpensive meal, certainly better than going out and getting a cheeseburger in the drive-thru.
Well, I think that's all the questions that I have for you today. Is there anything else that you want to add, or should we get into the book review portion of the pod?
Well, I think that's probably just about it. Nutrient density is one of those things that lots of people are talking about right now. And the biggest takeaway from this whole podcast today is really important for people to understand. It's going to take time to change your habits if you're not used to eating this way. Seek practicing, not perfection. It's so important not to think like, oh, I didn't hit it out of the park. That's it. I give up. I'm going back to eating cookies and chips, and that's it. It's going to take a little bit of time, but if you seek to add a little bit more and a little bit more, some is better than none. And then over time, as you start to change your palate to really enjoying and finding the ways that you can sneak those vegetables in, like making mashed potatoes, throw some cauliflower in there and mash it up too. Like, that's another way to add some vegetables.
Or
Butternut mac
I
and
was
cheese.
I was just gonna say that.
Like, brains that are, like, alike.
You can
Yeah,
also throw in some like roasted red peppers too if you pureed in with your cheese sauce and your butternut squash. Like, it makes a really delicious sauce. So then
that's
you're
a
getting two
great
vegetables and you still get to have your pasta and I mean, you could even, I'm not a huge fan of chickpea pasta, but chickpea pasta is really high in protein, so you throw some of that in there and you've got a complete meal.
Exactly. Exactly. Though the one thing is like, yes, if you do the red pepper puree in there, it's not a whole serving.
Yeah,
So perhaps it's like thinking like, okay, I got that. It's not just the number, it is aiming also for the
yeah.
full serving size. So maybe a side salad on the side, or saute up some greens to go with it, maybe a soup that you have, so you have the mac and cheese with the soup. There are, but it's really just kind of beginning to create the consciousness of looking at the food that you're actually putting in your body and kind of making a mental note that, you know what, maybe next time I need to add a little bit more. And that's kind of how I do it. So let's go on to the book review. So the book that I quote unquote, air quotes, read because I listened to it. Actually, I
Listening
love my
counts.
local library in Durham, North Carolina, and often I love to support the library, and the book, you can get the book in an audiobook form for free. You can check it out of the library. So these library books, or any of the books that we recommend, check your library first. Support the local library would be really good. So that's how I did it. I didn't have the book. I didn't buy it, so I don't have it in front of me to show you, but it was NutriVore, The Radical New Science for Getting the Nutrients You Need from the Food You Eat, by Dr. Sarah Ballantine, and Ballantine with a Ballantyne, and really great book. And it does come, I think if you buy the book, it has like the actual workbooks or charts and all of the supportive document within the book. If you actually listen to it, she talks about and references the PDF of all of the supportive information. So all of the dietary kind of, she has like guidelines, and she has simple eating plans and things like that. Love the book because of that. The way she kind of takes the tact is, it doesn't matter whether you're paleo or you're vegan or you're vegetarian. She breaks it down very simply in this kind of what she calls the NutriVore score, where she has taken the nutrient density and basically divided it by the calories. So the more nutrient higher nutrient ratio to the calories, she gives it a score. And so something like liver scores super, super high because it has a very high amount of nutrients compared to the amount of calories within it. And so it's kind of within that book. You can use it as a reference guide for all of the different fruits and vegetables and other foods that you're going to eat and protein sources. Kind of get that NutriVore score and the different ways to actually work all these things into your diet. So loved the book and certainly a high recommend. And this one is, again, check the show notes. We have a book list on bookshops.org, and you can find that link in the show notes to go right to. All of the books are there, and it actually goes when you purchase a book through our bookshops.org. I believe 5% of the book sales go to support a local bookstore within the region. And so I have it linked to one of the local bookstores that I have around here. It's kind of in Carborough. It's a small little single proprietor bookstore, so I really love it. And she also sells used books in there as well. So check that out.
All right. Well, I did not read the book and I'm interested, so I'll definitely have to find a copy somewhere. But I think we're ready for a little recipe showdown on our Starfruit recipes because this is we're filming this, as I said, right before the Super Bowl, and Starfruit are in season in the winter time. So
we can see who's the star of the Starfruit recipes.
I mean, I think, I'm biased, but I think my recipe is pretty good.
Yep.
We'll let you guys be the judge of that. You'll have to cook or make the recipes and, let us know which one you think is better. But I think we'll see you guys in the kitchen.
I made Lauren's Starfruit and pineapple fruit leather right here. And we are really lucky today to have USA archery team members, Natalie Howell and Olivia Martin, who happens to be my daughter and Lauren's sister. So we're going to have them try it to see how the recipe went.
This recipe is extremely easy to make by chopping up some pineapple and starfruit, putting it into a saute pan or saucepan. I use sorghum syrup because I didn't have the honey on the recipe that was required, so just use a sweetener of your choice. But honestly, the pineapple was so sweet you didn't really need it. After you cook it down and it's soft enough, you're going to pop it into a blender. You want to use caution when putting hot liquids into a blender. My blender is actually made to whir hot liquid, so it does allow steam to escape. Just use caution. Then spread it out onto a cookie sheet lined with either parchment paper or Silpat. Then after it dehydrates, you're going to cut it into strips. I actually used a canning jar to store mine because it seemed like the best way to do it, as well as having an airtight lid to add to it. So let's see how the archery team members enjoyed the snack.
I got the whole thing. Clearly doesn't come out of the container, so maybe a better way to do it would be a piece of parchment. There we go. Perfect. All right. Okay. Leathery for sure. Mm-hmm. So consistency.
Bourbon wants a piece.
Pardon the dogs in the background. Oh gosh, it was very good, very fruity.
Yeah, I like it. Starfruit
very healthy.
Should be flavored more often.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as fruit goes,
I say it's 10. Perfect tournament snack. Would be a perfect tournament snack.
Well, there you go. Thanks, Lauren. You did a great job. Can't wait to see how you like my Starfruit recipe.
Well, that's enough cooks in the kitchen for today.
But don't hang up your apron just yet. Next time, we're diving into, drumroll please, the benefits of fermented foods and how to improve your gut microbiome health.
But don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. It helps us spread the food love.
Preferably 5 stars and 0 sass.
Oh, speak for yourself.
Don't forget to make our recipes and share a picture or a review on our Instagram. And you can find all our recipes on our website, twocookspodcast.com.
Oh, I can't wait to see what you guys make. I am truly looking forward to it. But we'll be back in 2 weeks with more food, health hacks, and probably maybe a disagreement or two, although we tend not to disagree as much as one would think.
That's mostly an off-air topic.
Yeah.
We try to keep it together for you all out there. But this is 2 voices, 1 mission, better food, better health. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Happy cooking.